Welcome to 15 Minutes of Consulting Best Practices. My name is Maria Isabel Rios, and I'm joined by David A. Fields. Hello, David.
It's nice to see you, Maria Isabel.
Good to see you too. This is a space where we answer your questions about how to create success and delight for you, for your clients in your consulting firm. Submit your questions, chime in the questions of others, contribute to the discussion and the conversation. It takes us a minute to see your comments. And we love saying hello to you. We love seeing who's here. We love participation. So let's dive into the questions that were submitted ahead of time. Jaren, Can you please share the first question that came in? This question is for you, David.
Okay.
Steve asked, when working with variable fees, if the variable portion is determined at the end based on some operating cost saving from the client or for the client, how can you be sure they'll be honest with you about what they ultimately save? Okay, so presumably Steve does no longer has access or visibility to the data, and he wants to make sure the client is being truthful about what they were able to save. So how do we do that?
All right. So I'm going to answer that, but first, for those of you who are live, type in a question. So we'd love to get your questions live. Be brave. Ask a question and stump Maria Isabel. Whatever question you ask next is Maria Isabel will answer. And it's your job to try to stump her with some questions.
Do that. All right. Okay. I love it. All right. Challenge accepted.
So variable determined at the end. Got it. So what we would call success fees or skin in the game. And how do you make sure don't get cheated? All right. I have a few thoughts on this. First, it's best hi John, it's best to have an action standard rather than be paid a percent of something. In part for the very reason you brought up, because you don't want to have an audit burden. There are other reasons too, including your ability to control the outcome. If you're getting a percentage of something, you're typically more tied to what they're doing as opposed to what you're doing. So in success fees, you want an action-based, binary standard. That's best. You either achieved it or you didn't, and there might be a couple of levels of that. But in general, you do want to minimize your audit burden. Audit burdens are a challenge, or they can be.
Right.
So here's some other thoughts. If you're really worried about a client being dishonest, then don't do business with them. Don't accept them as a client. If it's a large company, they have to report their numbers. So those should be public. Any kind of savings would be public or at least reported in internal meetings. And if it's not, determine up front how the results are going to be determined and measured and what system you're going to use. Do that up front. And after that, just forget about it. Because it's not worth your anxiety to worry about whether or not you're being cheated. That's kind of my thoughts on it. Maria Isabel, do you have a different take or similar?
Absolutely. I'm completely with you, right? On being clear and on deciding at the beginning and being abundantly explicit in how things are getting measured and where the data is coming from and how it's getting cleaned or scrubbed if there needs to be scrubbing. I'm wondering, David, if when you say action-based items as an element to determine variable fees, if you can give examples, because I don't know that everybody would know what you mean by that. So it would be helpful if you can give a couple of examples.
Ideally, you want a binary action standard based on your work. Now, if you're doing cost savings, it might look a little bit different. But I'll give you an example from, for instance, work we did years ago with a client that was integrating a whole bunch of different units and wanted to present a plan to the board. Okay. So, and they wanted our help with the plan. So we helped build the initial presentation to the board and then said, if you're going to present to the board, if the board accepts it and you move forward with any part of the plan, that's considered success because that means you find value in our plan. So that the action standard was they decided to move forward with any part of the plan. How they implemented it, the ultimate integration, whether it worked, too much of that's outside our control. So it's a binary action standard. They either move forward or they don't, and it's based on our work, not on their work. In cost savings, you do something different.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right. And we had a question. the first question that says, what is the best strategy for new consultants to find clients? That's the question I've committed to answering. And your name didn't come through. So we'll answer your question. In the meantime, type your name so we can say a proper hello and hi, Susan. We'll get to your question next in a second. So best strategy for consultant to find clients. Leverage your network, your connections. Connect with folks you know and who trust you and who are decision makers. And in conversation, understand what their problems are, understand what their needs are, and what they need help solving. And when that is right up your alley, right around the type of consulting you do, the type of problems you have knowledge around, you have expertise around. Hi, Dorian. Thank you for clarifying that. Then you would say, you would make the turn, right? Then you say, are you open to having a separate discussion where we can help, where we can figure out if we can help you solve that problem? That's the best strategy to find clients, right? Reinforce your connections, connect with your network. Ideally, in your network, you have decision makers for the type of consulting you do, people who can sign checks or who are influencers, meaning who can put you in front of decision makers who can sign checks for the work of you do. That would be step number one. That would be my first recommendation. David, what do you have to add to that?
Oh, I'm going to cheat.
Uh-huh.
So, Jaron, we have a little banner that replaces me with the guy doing clients, don't we? Okay. So
All
here's
right.
what I would say, Dorian.
Right there.
It is other direction, Rizba. I think is scan the QR code, buy the book, and
Yes.
That's how you find clients.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. It's that way.
Okay.
Perfect. So that's my cheat. It's going to be your best bet. Follow what it says. A lot of listeners here will verify it. It'll help you. Also, for those of the rest of you who don't have this, I would highly recommend you just get a copy of the book. All right. So you put me back on the screen, Jerry.
All right.
Excellent. We'll go to what there was another question came in, I think.
Yes, from Susan. Okay, so this question is for you.
Okay.
Susan said, what are some creative levers ways to restart a conversation with a prospective client? We started the context discussion, and
great.
she said she really wants Susan's help. I continue to do one-on-ones, and she usually responds to this. So what should Susan do? And then Jennifer has an add-on to that. So we'll get to your add-on.
Okay. So so this is a curious situation. So she responds to your 111. So you can get into conversation. So I'm not sure what's in the way here. And I suppose I would recommend that you just ask her, what's in the way here? What do we need to do to shake this loose or get this started? Do you want to get this restarted? It could be her priorities have changed. You just need to get into conversation. Since she's responding to 111s, you should be able to say, hey, can we jump on the phone for 10 minutes, for 5 minutes? Let's connect on whether there's next steps on this outstanding thing you wanted help with. Also, we can connect on whatever you did the 111 about. That's my thoughts. Marie-Isabel, different?
Completely
Same?
agree.
Yeah.
Get on into a conversation as fast as you possibly can. You have responsiveness there. And Jennifer added, how do you handle a prospect who seems all in, then goes, then jump back in to ghost again? This is very common. So how do you handle that?
So this is actually a better situation than some, right? Where if they're coming in and out, that's good because that is showing that actually that there is some interest. It's just their timeline is different from yours.
Right.
Now, the fact that they're ghosting you, because there's a whole ghosting sequence, right? So you can use the ghosting sequence and you can look that up but the fact that they're coming back suggests they do want to do it. If they ghost you multiple times, and the next time you get in the conversation, you can bring that up. Say, what can we do so that, we're going to set a next date. What do we need to do to ensure that you actually make that date? Since we're going to put it on the calendar, and just ask them.
Right.
Okay.
There is an element in here that it's very encouraging. And for those of us who get frustrated when people miss meetings or when we get radio silence, right? Which I think it's a part of our human condition, right? To get frustrated when we hear nothing and we're being ignored. What I read between the lines is a lot of the reason why you're being ghosted is that it's not about you. And what we find in our experience, in our clients' experiences, most of the time, that is the case. So it's about them, right? And then how do you shift your focus? How do you make it right side up? How do you think, what is it that it's about them? And not make the ghosting about you, right? So how do you keep your focus centered on them always, what their needs are? Is it a change in process that will help minimize the ghosting? Is it a change in timing? Do they need more pinging from you? Do they need a shorter check-in in between and things like that?
Yeah, got it.
All right.
And Susan answered Dorian, which is awesome. That is excellent. And John, you're exactly right. Is there an actual next meeting on the calendar, which
Right.
would help a lot? My assumption was since they're ghosted that you had the meeting on the calendar. So Rusty, we only got the first half of your question.
Right.
So we're not 100% sure what the question is yet. It just says you're going to do monthly check-ins with the city manager and available, and then it cuts off. So perhaps you can post the rest of your question, and we will do it next week.
Right.
Patrick says, how do you feel about using remote assistant staffing companies for EAs? I'm considering hiring one, but unsure if this is a good long-term approach to developing my team. Ooh, that's a good one. Go ahead, Marisabel.
All right. So there's a difference between a remote assistance staffing company. We may be talking about the same, and a virtual assistants, kind of aggregators, right? Or specialized aggregators, or companies that have a roster or virtual assistants that they vet and that they train somehow and that they support. We have clients that have worked with both models that are pure staffing companies where the person becomes your employee, and sort of like aggregators or folks that work and remain in company in contact with this virtual assistant shops that provide services to them, as well as kind of manage or intermediate their relationship with our clients. There's successes in both cases. A lot of the success depends on how specialized you need your virtual assistant to be and whether you know what you're looking for in the profile of your virtual assistant. Is it a valid path to grow your team? Absolutely. We've seen this play out successfully many, many, many times. And it's actually a preferred path for quite a bit of our client population as they're growing. A step before hiring a full-time team member or even a part-time team member, right? Because it allows you to have somebody who can vet capabilities and who can filter and who has a wider source of trained executive assistants at their fingertips. Aggregators. Okay, perfect. So in the aggregator model, yeah, you can see a lot of success.
Yep.
Hopefully that answers your question, Patrick. Let us know.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think it's perfectly fine to use that. We have plenty of clients that go that, including for some large firms.
Yes.
That use that model for some reason rather than having EAs as employees. So that works.
And some amazing executive assistants have.
So Rusty, we got the rest of the description. What I'm not 100% sure on, and so perhaps you can post so we can jump on it first thing next Monday, is what's the question?
Right.
So if you can post the question, that'll be excellent, and we'll jump on that. But otherwise, we've already used up most of our 15 minutes. So thank you for spending it with us. It was good to see you. Thank you for throwing excellent questions at us. So a couple of thoughts. One is if you don't already have it on your calendar, you should put davidafields.com/Monday Live. Just put it as like a recurring Monday. thing, and I know a lot of you do. And that way you're with us and with each other every week, and we get to hear your questions. You get to see what other people ask. So throw that in your calendar. Also connect to Marie-Isabel and to me on LinkedIn. Jaron has put this on here. Thank you very much, Jaron. I'm David A. Fields, and you can see M.I. Rios there. So connect with us there. And that's it. Look at that, right at the bottom of the hour. So thank you for being here. Have a fabulous week. Remember, consulting's about them. It's about your clients. It's about your prospects. So give them value and give those folks kindness. And we will see you next week. Take care.
Right. Thank you. Bye.